Um, Hi. So it's been a little under a week since I last uploaded the Silksong video here to this channel, and wow. I would just like to start this video off by saying thank you. Thank you all. Thank you so very much from the bottom of my heart. This has been mind-blowing. This has been an absolutely crazy experience, especially to have something that I put my name to being revered as like high quality or anything like that. It's been absolutely insane. So thank you all who came to check out the video, all the positive comments, all the nice words in the comment section, both from this video and all the people who went back on the previous videos, all the new subs. Welcome to the channel. I'm glad I could entertain you enough to at least pique your interest. And yeah, I hope all of you stay around for long term, because this video is going to be talking about the future. Talking about all the potential routes and different paths we can take this channel now that I officially have somewhat of an established audience, no matter how small that might be. As long as there are people willing to watch, I would love to gear that content towards what you guys would like to see. So let's get into this. Let's talk about the couple things that I have on my mind right now for this channel. And yeah, we'll see where this takes us. So the first thing to mention is that I'm actually still in college. I'm finishing up my last semester of classes due to the pandemic that shall not be named. Yeah, it's all being done remotely and online, so I'm still going through the process of learning due dates and moving my schedule around and trying to figure out what's coming when, and getting those priorities all sorted out and everything. So that is unfortunately going to be taking the majority of April's time away, but that's not to say that I can't start doing content for something else entirely, or just keep doing what I've been doing with this channel. And with that in mind, I just realized I said that a lot, by the way, in the last video, so that's just something that popped up. With that being said, though, I did originally start the Hollow Knight content for this channel basically focused on nothing but Radiant bosses. And that's basically just been the only thing that's been uploaded so far prior to this scripted video. And the reason I started it in the first place was just because I was doing it for the first time, like all the Radiant bosses for the first time. And as soon as I was done, I was like, man, I wish there was another thing I could do to just like prolong my time with this game, because I'm having such a blast. And content creation was kind of the only outlet that I thought of at the time. So that was really the only reason I delved into Radiant bosses as hard as I could. But now that this scripted video is out, and it seems that a change of pace might be the direction that I need to go, I'm not entirely sure. Because I've also put myself in a box with Radiant bosses as well. Like, I've done all of the really heavy hitters that everyone wants to see out of bosses, right? Like, I've done Nightmare King Graham, Absolute Radiance, Markoth, Zote, like all the really big named bosses, those have already been completed. So the situation I'm in now is I could do the Radiant bosses throughout April while I don't have as much time on my hands, but they'd be pretty, I don't know, they'd be over bosses that aren't really the most interesting to watch, or that people don't really care to see. So my thoughts on that are I could just bypass the idea altogether, and just leave it by the wayside for now, or I could do those bosses, like all the simpler ones, like I could do Vengefly King, Fluke Marm, Gruz Mother, False Champion, you know, just the easier bosses, and either just keep doing those, like just as a quick way of content, or put them even in like a compilation based video. So maybe like 4 to 7-ish bosses, depending on who I do per video. I don't know. If you guys even like the idea, just let me know. That might be something worth looking into, but that's really where I'm at in terms of Radiant bosses for now. Beyond that, though, there are a couple other ideas I still have about things I could do to hold us over until Silksong eventually blesses us from the heavens. But the first thing I wanted to look at was the idea of doing Pantheon guides, which I'm admittedly a little bit more on the fence about, just because with Pantheons I feel like there are certain things that you can do to give advice versus like you know, just straight up telling other people how to play the game. And there's a very fine line there that I don't necessarily want to infringe, because the game's meant to be played in a whole bunch of ways, right? And so for me to cover every single approach on the Pantheon might be a bit worrisome, just because it's a lot of different things that I would have to cover. Like, I'd have to cover each individual boss for that, like, each method, or I don't know, maybe I could do just the entire Pantheon with like one specific loadout, and then try and give you guys my best tips for each boss for that Pantheon, if that sounds interesting. But yeah, I don't really know what else I could do with Pantheons, just because like the fundamental differences in difficulty with those versus Radiant bosses can kind of sort of lead in two separate directions entirely, I feel like, especially when you add like bindings to the mix, and you know, as I said, all the different loadouts and stuff like that. So yeah, just let me know what you think about all this so far, and if you think it'd be interesting to watch and for me to do. And if you have any additional suggestions about Pantheons too, go ahead and just feel free to drop them in the comments. I'd be more than happy to read over what you guys have to say and what you guys are thinking. And if there's one idea that a lot of people seem to be interested in, I don't see why I wouldn't do it. So yeah. The other major thing that I was leaning a little bit more towards in terms of what I could do in the future is Radiant boss guides. Now, I've been looking around YouTube a little bit, and it doesn't seem, those seem like untreaded waters, which is good, because I don't want to like oversaturate with too much content. Like, there have been a lot of people that have done Radiant bosses, but the specific approaches to how you could do those bosses might be something that would be super interesting to cover. Especially since I'm getting a lot of comments more recently too about people having specific questions like, why didn't you use this here? Or what would be the best approach for this boss and this move? So I feel like if I sat down with those individual bosses like Nightmare King Grim and Radiance and Zote and everything, like the harder bosses, and I just dumped the majority of my knowledge about those bosses, in addition to having like separate loadouts and approaches, like, you know, a nail build versus a soul build, or like even a pet build maybe, even though I've never really done one of those, it would be probably a little bit more interesting, I feel like, to explore than just keep doing regular Radiant bosses, because you could walk away with that with additional knowledge rather than just being like, hey, I beat the boss, smash the like button and stroke my ego, thanks. But yeah, I just figured I could, you know, find a way to go through each boss and talk about like tips and tricks, their movesets, different approaches to it, and the way that I personally would handle it. Just, you know, all in one video format, which would make for a little bit lengthier videos for sure, and would also involve probably a script that I write for each one, just so I'm not all over the goddamn place. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this too, because I want to make sure that the content that I'm delivering, like I said, is enjoyable for both me and also for you guys, because you're, as far as I'm concerned, equally as invested in this channel at this point as I am. Because if I'm making content for myself, then why would you guys be here? You know what I mean? And in addition to that, if I'm making content for you, what is it you want to see? So let me know if you have a preference for one of these over the other, both for the short term and for the long term, and I'll see what I can do to hit the ground running and try and get some content between now and Silksong's launch. As I said before too, if you have any suggestions also that I didn't really explore in the game, that you would like to see as content in the future, please don't hesitate to drop those in the comments. I will try and do my 100% best to go through every single one that I get and respond and give my thoughts to each individual idea. So yeah, and I guess it's all but mandatory at this point, since this seems to be the most requested thing so far, to record some like gameplay of Silksong whenever it comes out, to whatever degree that would be. But I'll probably have to do that in like a compilation based let's play sort of thing, kind of like what PewDiePie did with Dark Souls or Bloodborne, if you've seen any of those. Just because watching me backtrack and screw up and, you know, run back from a bench every single time I get murked probably won't be as fun as it sounds in my head. So, but yeah, I'll be sure to cover that to some degree whenever Silksong comes out. So I think I'm gonna just sign off here and let you guys mull this information over and see what you think. This was a little bit longer than I would have anticipated it being. I'm sorry for droning on about all this, but I really want to make sure that I'm giving content that you guys would enjoy watching on top of stuff that I could do long term, because I can only do so many Radiant bosses at the very end of the day. You know what I mean? Like, I'm more than halfway through the roster now at this point, I think, if not halfway. So I'm going to need to change it up at some point, and this is just my foothold to make sure that I'm changing it up in a way that's beneficial to everyone involved in the channel. So yeah, thank you all so much for sticking this one out and helping me sort out where the channel's exactly going to be heading in the near future. And I will see you guys very soon with whatever content we decide to move forward with. Take care.